Welcome to the Thunderdome. Finally, the time has come. I have been writing this book for over 9 years. I have rewritten this book so many times that I can hardly look at it anymore. In a sense, I was already starting my final exams, while my studies were just starting. With every attempt I made, I would discover a new piece of the puzzle. For years, I was at the point where I didn't know how to start or how to end my story. I must also admit that I have often walked around with an illusion. I have been temporarily convinced of things that ultimately turned out to be untrue. I test everything, but I also give everything a chance to prove itself. If I had published my book earlier, I would have had many errors to correct. I would have walked the path of shame. Now it is true that I think I have discovered everything that I should know. It would be this last attempt that the missing pieces of the puzzle finally became known. Besides the fact that I had a lot to process, I was also fighting a battle in the field of communication. I am dyslexic. I experience problems with grammar, and especially sentence structure. I had this problem all my life, but the flight of thoughts would make it many times worse. I will never recover, but that doesn't mean I won't fight. I see writing as a challenge, and for me, it is a lot like doing a puzzle. I love that I have the time to put everything into words calmly. I'm intelligent, but grammar is something my brain refuses to accept. I had to read my texts repeatedly to remove as many errors as possible. It is important to me that I am clear and that the sentences flow smoothly. As you have read, I have experienced many things in life. I have been able to experience life in a very broad sense. I have seen almost all of life's secrets with my own eyes. Little remains hidden. The question I have asked myself for a long time is, why me? What makes me so special? In this chapter, I will go all out when it concerns my identity. I have told you who the gods are and what the devil represents. Now it is my turn. I offer you a glimpse into the life of a pure Serpent Bearer. As a shaman, I am a representative/messenger of the thunder and lightning gods. My universal education started around the age of 21. The moment my uncle died was the starting signal. Until then I had few experiences with psychic abilities, but these also started to become more and more intense during that same period. I received my first lessons of the afterlife from a demon. I immediately had to deal with the tough stuff. I also had to deal with other forms, such as my spiritual clone. In a period of 3 years, I have gained a lot of experiences. The penny would finally drop when I saw there were 2 dogs in the photo that had been dead for years. My experiences with the afterlife has largely stopped since then, but I wouldn't be bored. Not long after, I could no longer cope with life mentally, and developed a bipolar disorder. I was in a serious burnout, and on top of that, I had the flight of thoughts. I was destroyed by 2 extremes. After the flight of thought, I fell into a 4-year-long depression, and I would discover the value of astrology. After the depression, I was confronted with manic behavior, but I would learn to suppress it. At the age of 33, I was completely stable again, and I would discover numerology. That's where the ball started rolling, and I came closer to unraveling my identity. Yet, the latter is not something I have consciously worked towards. Every impulse I followed, each time led to the identity of the Serpent Bearer. I have also been completely wrong about things for many years. I sometimes overlook something, but once the ball starts rolling, there's no stopping it. Some things just take time to be processed properly. In my birth chart, there are several remarkable things going on. For example, it was already predicted that I would rise above religion, and it also stated that I would end up living on benefits. Later in life, I would start to find pleasure in the smaller things in life, and that is true. My life is complex, and yet, I am quite simple. I allow everyone to be free, precisely because I attach great value to being free myself. My life has made it clear to me that I cannot reach my full potential when others impose boundaries or obligations on me. It also states that I would suffer from delusions. Nostradamus was a very strong example of this. This is also the reason why I often look at something for several years before drawing a conclusion. I have a lot of patience, just waiting for the right moment. I want to see something proven first, because I hate being bullied with incorrect information. When it comes to my claim as a representative, I have been aware of this for years. Around the age of 36, the penny would drop. The deeper I went, the stranger things became. All the knowledge I share in this book, I have gained during this quest. I've been looking at this for a long time, trying to get the most out of it. The fact is that I was not the one who gave me my name, nor did I single-handedly decide when and where I would be born. In short, this is all beyond my control. Yet it is true that for me there is rarely a coincidence in life. Everything seems to happen for a reason. It's time we see how pure I am as a Serpent Bearer. The question is, am I worthy of the title, the Messenger of the Gods? Born into conflict. The first thing I want to talk about is my birth. I was born during preeclampsia. The doctors had already given up, and my mother had to choose between me and her own life. My mother didn't want to give up, and an hour later I was born. I was born on December 2, 1983, Gemini Hospital in Den Helder, at 4 p.m. I arrived an hour late, and I was a full month early. Yet, I was born exactly when I was supposed to be born. The fighting spirit that my mother showed is very strong in me. In this life, I would learn what taking a beating is, and what it means to survive. The funny thing about this is that the hospital is called the Gemini. It is named after my ascendant. It thus shows the link with thunder. I was born during conflict. My birth time was purposefully determined by fate. Without that fact, I would never have discovered all the secrets. I am a pure Serpent Bearer, because fate decided so. My sun is Sagittarius, my moon is Scorpio, and my ascendant is Gemini. This makes me thunder and lightning, in its purest form. I am especially strongly connected to the zodiac sign of the Serpent Bearer. Not only in astrology, also by name. See my analysis. Name frequencies. Elmer equals 53459 is equal to 26 equals 8 equals Scorpio. Wirenga equals 5959571 is equal to 46 equals 10 equals Sagittarius. Elmer Wirenga equals 72 equals 9 equals Serpent Bearer. Number of letters. Elmer equals 5 letters equals Leo. Wirenga equals 8 letters equals Scorpio. Elmer Wirenga equals 13 letters equals Pisces. Titles. The name Elmer is a leader in the field of truth and the occult. The name Wirenga is Sagittarius versus Scorpio, and in that too I represent a pure Serpent Bearer. So my last name is purely about knowledge and wisdom. The full name Elmer Wirenga is a master of knowledge and wisdom in the field of spirituality. Yet, this is not all. The name Elmer also has a special meaning. El means God. Mer is the master number of knowledge and wisdom. Elmer means God in knowledge and wisdom. El equals 53 equals 8 equals Scorpio. Elmer is God in knowledge and wisdom, in the realms of the occult and truth. In short, how high can you score on the Serpent Bearer and the theme of hidden knowledge and wisdom? Even by my standards, this is bizarre. All claims are confirmed in this book, and the story I share. As you can see, my name and my date of birth match exactly. How lucky do you have to be to get it like this? Odin. As you can see, I already have a strong connection with the Serpent Bearer. The titles of my name are known. Now it's time for the inner part. I leave out the entire calculation for simplicity. I'll let the final values speak for itself. My table shows my relationship with other zodiac signs. There are 3 special things to observe. The first thing that stands out is that I have a negative score of -9% on all constellations that belong to Vili, the god of life. For me, it is a reference that indicates that I belong to death or the afterlife. It is the first reference to Odin. Odin has a good relationship with Fae, because Odin is crazy about animals. I score positively on Fae, which indicates that I am an animal lover. I care about all life. The second special thing about my construction is that I master all earth elements. I score the 0% value on all. So I have these zodiac signs and their qualities as an extra. It also indicates that I am connected to Mother Earth. Virgo in particular plays a decisive role when it comes to Odin. She provides her support as a woman and complements Odin. Lightning consists of the element air, supplemented with fire and water. My thunder rules over the elements of air, supplemented by earth. This connection with the earth elements makes me complete. So I represent all the elements. The third hint is very well hidden. In this case, we need to look at the totem animals that my name possesses. I once woke up with the feeling that I had to make a model of totem animals. It was some kind of urge, and I followed it. I quickly realized that totem animals always represent animals that appear in your immediate environment. So there are no crocodiles or tigers. After 15 minutes of brainstorming, I came up with the following model. At that time I was busy looking for new techniques, and I came up with the idea to see which totem animals make up my name. It started as an innocent idea. I used the model I had just created. I chased a feeling, and the following is what it led to. To understand the following, I am now going to divide my name into parts. EL equals 53 equals 8 equals crow. MER equals 459 equals 999 equals owl. WIE equals 595 equals 555 equals wolf. REN equals 955 equals 555 equals wolf. GA equals 71 equals 8 equals crow. Symbolically, I carry 2 crows on my shoulders. I am a master of knowledge and wisdom, supported by 2 wolves. I carry the exact same totem animals as Odin. My name Elmer Wirenga is Odin's other identity. However, years later I noticed something that confirmed my suspicion. In my analysis of Odin's formula, I only score positive on my totem animals, and the rest are negative or master. Crow equals 10%. Wolf equals 76.1%. Owl equals 16.4%. Odin's animals represent his aspect of knowledge and wisdom. The crows named Hugin and Munin represent the concept of thought and memory. It refers to mental capabilities. The 2 wolves, Jerry and Frecky, together represent insatiable lust. In total, the animals represent a master who has an insatiable lust for knowledge and wisdom. My brain never stands still. In situations where things do come to a standstill, I experience depression. I therefore have to constantly focus my thoughts on something in order to be able to relax. However, I have noticed that when I do too much, I get a migraine for a few days, forcing me to rest. As you can see, my name is full of synergy towards being a pure Serpent Bearer. In fact, my name is Elmer and I am Odin, representative of the afterlife and the final judgment. Now you could say that based on my name I score very well on the title, Messenger of the Gods. We are not there yet. Astrology also plays a very decisive role in being a Serpent Bearer. The placement of my sun, moon and ascendant says enough, but we also have to look at the position of the planets. It all gets even crazier. Enter the dome. All my planets are divided between the constellations of Libra, Scorpio, and Sagittarius. This also indicates that I was born with a specialty. I may not be able to do much, but what I can do pretty well. For me, everything is all about making my own judgment. I simply cannot lean on others. I have to do everything myself. As I have already indicated several times, the Serpent Bearer consists of extremes. This is also the case in my horoscope. All celestial bodies known for their negativity, the Moon, Saturn and Pluto, belong to Scorpio. Saturn is known for being the counter to Jupiter. Jupiter, on the other hand, is carried by Sagittarius. In short, the duality that was already intense between Sagittarius and Scorpio is made even more intense by the placement of the planets. When I look at the period of the Serpent Bearer, which is 13 degrees, my planets play around it. None of them touch this interim period. If that had been the case, let's say my sun was in this period, then I would not have been a pure Serpent Bearer. Yet, if we look at the boundary of the beginning of House 7, the extreme north, and the placement of the ascendant, the extreme south, I do fall within this boundary, which means that I once again score a pure Serpent Bearer. What has been unknown for me for a long time is that the planet Jupiter is unaspected. It does not connect to the other planets, and is therefore very pure. In astrology, this phenomenon is rare. The Greeks worshipped the constellations, and the Romans worshipped the planets. The main planet of the Romans was Jupiter, and it was considered a thunder and lightning god. In short, I am next to an Odin, a true Jupiter. I found the following description about Jupiter on the internet, and it comes from the Dutch website Happiness. Here follows a description. Jupiter is a wise guru, but he can also blindly follow an ideal. Putting things into perspective is not his strong suit. He is a sage, not a scientist. Some children are born wise, as if they have gained that wisdom in previous lives. These are children of Jupiter. Others must make mistakes before their wisdom can emerge. They learn their Jupiter power when they realize that they have made a mistake and can forgive themselves for it. The wise lesson has been learned, they are not broken or bitter, and they confidently continue their path in life. Jupiter is the planet of world travelers, who feel at home everywhere. They are philosophers, gurus, and teachers, who pass on their wisdom to others. The feeling that belongs to Jupiter is optimism. If you are confident that the outcome will be good, if you are sure that you will soon find a parking space in front of your door, then you are using the energy of Jupiter. He is the champion of positive thinking. That is why it is often considered a planet that brings luck. That happiness comes in two ways. On the one hand, he invites happiness with his limitless optimism. On the other hand, he does not let a setback discourage him because the glass is always half full. So say thank you to your Jupiter, if you can see your setback as a stroke of luck or life lesson. In the sign of Sagittarius, Jupiter is completely at ease. There, in his comfort zone, he shows his best side. This means that gathering wisdom through travel and study becomes your way to achieve hope, faith, and connection. This can be done by visiting distant countries, but it can also be done by traveling in the mind and in time. The fact that you always seem to be able to draw on an infinite source of wisdom is your greatest support in life. That helps you to cope with everything. When you are young, you may have the tendency to consume the words of philosophers. It doesn't matter which movement they represent. You want to fill yourself with knowledge so that you can draw your own wise conclusions. Once you are ready, you can emerge as a fantastic teacher. Someone who inspires others with the insights you have gained during your long life journey. This previous description is quite on point. As you can see, I am a spiritual teacher, and I live up to my titles. I consider myself a representative because I score in every possible area. In short, the Maya worship the Serpent Bearer. I am a natural-born shaman, and I represent Zeus, Apollo, and Chiron. The pyramids are all about the 369. The Romans worship the planet Jupiter, and in Germanic mythology, I represent Odin. I score them all, like being a supreme god. The question is, do I qualify as a son of the thunder and lightning gods? Destiny. The last thing I want to share with you is my purpose in life. In this case, I would like to focus on information that almost no birth chart has, but is nevertheless of priceless value. Not only is it difficult to find, more importantly, it reflects the journey I have had to travel. Keep in mind that the vast majority has already happened, and a small part still needs to take place. As a human being, I cannot provide more openness than this. So I have decided to go one step deeper and give you insight into my assignment. It is 100% correct. You can see all the claims confirmed by the topics I have discussed in this book. Here is a brief overview of my destiny. It is what I must strive for in order to be successful in life. This is my fate. Destination: descend from the ivory tower. At some point in your career, a reorientation towards education and learning will take place, and the emphasis will shift to the power of images and the spoken or written word. Earlier in your career, there may be a tendency to cultivate a proud distance from others, especially regarding your willingness to learn. Perhaps you consider yourself a free spirit who does not wish to be influenced by trivial contacts. In extreme cases, you can be glib or loud, and offend others with your cutting remarks. However, you will discover that your career will benefit if you are more modest, and especially if you maintain contacts with others and build a valuable communication network. It will also be rewarding to focus on your basic education and skills, rather than striving for intellectual laurels. Themes surrounding intelligence and learning play a special role in your personal development, with a shift from intellectual elitism to a more sympathetic everydayness over the course of your life. Your attempts to project an air of wisdom often end in painful failures. True satisfaction, on the other hand, is found when you meet people at their level and listen to them modestly and sincerely and learn from them. Humor at the expense of others, a boisterous manner, and a general attitude of intellectual superiority give way later in life to a genuine appreciation of everyday contact with others. You will then find satisfaction in working together on communicative projects. At a younger age, you long intensely for distant horizons, and your freedom comes before everything else. In old age, to your great surprise, you find satisfaction in the simple pleasures of your environment, in a more limited sense. Destination. Take the initiative yourself. Finding a balanced answer to the question of whether you should put your energy into your relationships or into personal development is an important life theme for you. Professionally, this theme can manifest itself in the fate of important partnerships, where overdependence and a tendency to compromise one's personal beliefs can lead to failure. You may only be successful if you dare to go your own way, although you may be well into your 30s before you learn this. You will then realize that playing second fiddle is not for you, because it restricts your autonomy too much. You no longer wish to leave the fate of your career in someone else's hands, and aspire to hold a leadership position or be your own boss. Chances are that you committed yourself to a fairly long-term intimate relationship at a young age. Although this initially offers you considerable security, you will probably later become annoyed by the loss of personal freedom. You find that the more you give, the more others will use you for their own benefits. A turning point occurs, more precisely around the age of 37, when you come to the conclusion that you can no longer accept living on other people's terms. You become happy when you focus your attention on fulfilling truly personal needs, even if you risk others, thinking you are selfish. By focusing on your self-development, you achieve an inner balance, which also makes your relationships more successful. Your destiny is to break with conditioned and outdated ideas about relationships. Destination. My assignment. It may be beneficial for you to take on a prominent role in relation to specific groups of people. You could be an example to others and thereby profoundly influence their lives. How this works depends on the placement in the character and house. Contacts with others will play an important role in your search for your inner identity. Father figures, by their presence or by their disappearance, force you to ask yourself many questions about the nature of your existence, which in time will lead to new spiritual growth and vision. Influential people and, later in life, spiritual authorities can fade into the background for you after sudden inner realizations. Moments of inner darkness alternate with the blinding light of truth. Destination. Mother Earth. You can play an important role in channeling the hopes and dreams of large numbers of people on the one hand, and more intimate groups on the other, especially women. You may identify strongly with your homeland, or perhaps feel an urge to leave it behind. With your unusual intuitive gifts, you have a keen sense of changes taking place on a collective level, especially in connection with the natural world. You are the channel through which group feelings manifest itself. Managing your emotional relationships takes almost a day's work. As a woman, you will be driven by the primitive archetypal urges of the feminine energy in nature. As a man, you will be attracted to earth divas because you need to feel the emotional forces flowing through you at full strength. More than once, you will be swept away by the universal force of emotional attraction or dependence. Sudden changes can take you far from home. Finally, you grow in your life when you learn to orient yourself in the world of your feelings and unconscious mind. Destination. Wisdom. You may be contacted for advice in various areas. With your good judgment and vision of the future, you could gain an influential position in a large group or organization. You may become involved in social projects on a large scale, although there is a danger that you will be carried away by a chimera under the influence of the wrong ideology. Over the years, you come to realize more and more how empty prestige and adulation actually are, and at some point you may seek refuge in a place of reflection. You might seem like a larger-than-life figure in the circles you move in. You gravitate toward people who possess influence and power, whether it be financial, social, or intellectual. Meeting people you respect for their views and opinions is an important formative process throughout your life. You tend to ramble on when you promote your own philosophical ideas, but later in life, perhaps through some religious experience, you might develop a more meditative attitude towards the nature of truth. Destination: the reformer. Exciting things are happening around you, wherever you are, and you are destined to inspire action in the groups and organizations you are a part of. You are a force for innovation in situations of stagnation, and can channel a message of inspiration or renewal. On the other hand, you often tend to light the fuse in order to initiate change. There may be an element of extremism in your character, which may make you attracted to extremist groups or people on the fringes of society. Setting a good example is important to you. You possess a magnetic charisma, which can be very inspiring to the people who meet you. Nevertheless, you are just as likely to exert a disruptive influence, so that even though others may seek inspiration from you, in the long run they feel uneasy around you. It is also your destiny to be a provocateur. In your view, you simply cannot make things too easy for people. You are a force for change, and in particular you may lean towards New Age disciplines, such as working with subtle energies, etc. Intermittently, dramatic changes in consciousness occur in your life, which sweep the ground away from under your feet and take you headfirst into the clouds. Destination: survival in extremity. You exude authority in your social relationships and may become involved in groups or organizations of a clandestine nature, which exert a powerful but hidden influence over the masses of society. You will have a role to play in times of great upheaval. Often you will be called to lead or oversee transformative forces, far beyond the power of normal institutions, when, by the hand of fate, the once secure structures of society are crushed. The course of your life can be changed by profound uprootings or radical transformations, at key moments in your development. You will be exposed in some way to the destructive forces in society, or to the demons of fate within, which may force you to make ruthless decisions in order to ensure your survival. Archetypal memories of death or destruction can haunt your unconscious mind. You will also likely have a hard time socially, as you instill fear or sexual undercurrents in others. You will be no stranger to loss. On the other hand, it takes no effort at all to turn your back on your past and start all over again. Destination: transformation. You are possessed by a compulsive urge to achieve success or acquire power and invest much of your energy in your ambitions. A radical transformation at an older age leads to a complete reorientation on what you actually want to achieve. Possibly because you realize that until then you have unconsciously tried to realize the ambitions of one of your parents. You have a talent for psychology and the paranormal. In addition, you can exercise power, although you tend to be autocratic in this regard. Themes surrounding your parents and/or ancestors have a profound influence on your sense of life direction. Perhaps you long to break free from the hold that inherited factors keep you alive. An obsessive need to reorganize your environment can lead to you disrupting your family and seeking out new professional challenges. As a result of secrets and abuse of power in your youth, you may be suspicious of the motives of those close to you, both at work and in your home life. There is a good chance that there will be a very significant crisis of change, after which things will be completely changed. Am I crazy, or maybe not so crazy after all? I started the story by showing my wounded side, in order to deal with the negative, and also because I don't have to keep falling back on it. I hope it's clear that I, too, am not immune to illness. I am just a simple human being, made of flesh and blood. In addition, I immediately wanted to confront existing taboos, such as the afterlife and psychic abilities. It is a subject that my life revolves around, but it receives no recognition. I have personally experienced that astrology can have a healing effect on you. Astrology helped me get rid of my depression. It has proven its worth to me. Yet, spirituality is not complete without the knowledge of numerology. Astrology and numerology are twins. They both carry equal value and play the dance together. Spirituality is about developing your own unique character. Learn to use yourself to your fullest potential. It is the key to happiness and brings you closer to the gods. This also means that every person has its own manual. Then I finally discovered what the 213 referred to, and this added a completely new chapter to my book. I had planned to tackle religion anyway, but would only ask the question many years later, who is God? When I found the story from Germanic mythology, everything fell in place very quickly. Finding out the identity of the gods only took me 3 minutes, thanks to my knowledge of astrology and numerology. In fact, astrology and numerology is theology. While writing this, I started to wonder who the devil really was. For a long time, I was completely wrong. The joke, however, is that the answer has been hiding inside me all along. Odin represents the 369 in a positive form, and hell chooses to harness everything bad about the 369. The only one who can fight the devil is Odin. Unintentionally, I wrote a Bible, but this time, one that comes very close to reality. However, it was never my intention to do this. Everything just came together on its own. My entire book revolves around the life of a pure Serpent Bearer. Everything revolves around death and resurrection. For astrologers and numerologists, I am a gold mine. In this last chapter, I revealed my identity. I let the stars speak for themselves. This also serves the purpose of showing what my life is all about as a pure Serpent Bearer. It is my evidence for my claim as a representative of the thunder and lightning gods. As you have seen, in many ancient cultures I score the supreme god. As I mentioned before, I score on everything, and there's no way I could make it any more pure. Yet, I did not decide when I would be born and where. It were also my parents who gave me this name. My birth wasn't an accident, it was all meant to be. Everything I experienced in life was a puzzle piece. Things are rarely based on a coincidence. Everything seems to happen for a reason. The funny story is that I never knew what to become in life. I was living life without a set goal. At the age of 36, I discovered I was a shaman, and finally things started to fall in place. In the end, I am proud of being one. I got the honor of the universe itself. By following my intuition, I would get many steps closer to the truth. At this moment, it feels like I am done. My study seems complete, and I am prepared for the next step in life. Remember one thing, I am a child of the constellations, or God, and so are you.